like through the stereo mix, and I think it's going to work better for us. Of course, that's just an idea, but we'll see. So I'm switching over to stereo mix here, and on the mic through the stereo mix, and I think it's going to work better for us. Of course, that's just an idea, but we'll see. So I'm switching over to stereo mix here, and on the mic through the stereo mix. There. I just recognized what was happening. It's like,
a little echo there.
This technology. Yeah, this technology is got itself going here. So let me do this and see if my live stream is showing up here. Here it is. I'm over here turning other speakers off. So, all right, they should be able to hear through ACIM Gather now, hopefully, and without any of the other stuff going on. So, hey, Bruce, good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Lynn.
Grateful that
good morning, all.
It's fun day here, fun day Saturday. And let me just really quickly, you can hear us again here for a second. Oh, man. And there we go with a triple echo. Okay, so so that's the radio. Everything's it's playing through the radio too. So when you got so many things, everything's playing through something else is kind of crazy. But that is the world today, and it's simpler than it used to be. So that's all I can say.
Simpler in some ways and more complex than others, I suppose, huh?
I guess so. Well, I think about the simplicity in terms of, I can talk to people in Australia or Canada or Arizona as if they were right here in the room with me, and then people can turn on a YouTube or turn on some other kind of recording, and they're going to hear the same thing, and it's like we're all here all in one place.
Mm-hmm.
It's a start. Oh gosh, so funny. So how are you doing this week, Bruce?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm doing very well, and having some crazy weather. Are you guys did you have rain yesterday?
We had some good thunderstorms, yeah. And in fact, we put out some wind chimes. They woke me up about 2 a.m. So I moved them to the front porch where they don't get as many wind gusts there. So we'll see if that works better.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. So yeah, it's like our little planet is just going all crazy. Wow.
Yeah, but sure, some pretty morning walks I've been having for the last month there, or not quite a month, I guess. 4 weeks and a smidge.
Very cool.
Yep. Well, I have us on the top of page 78 in Absence from Felicity, the story of Helen Schuckman and her scribing of A Course in Miracles by Kenneth Wapnick, PhD. And we've been in chapter 3, which we're just about done with. We've been reading some of Helen's dreams and the subway experience and the puppy and the rabbit, and let's see what else. There's just a handful of others. The greatest experience of my life. Yeah. And dream 1 and 2, and let's see what else was. I think that might be
the hen. Don't forget the hen.
Oh, the hen. Yeah, exactly. The hen, and then the witch angel. Is the last one we read.
The witch angel. Yeah.
So we're at the recorder. For anybody who wants to read along on page 78 in the print version, and you might have a Kindle reference.
Yeah, we are on location 1211, and it says page 69 on the bottom of the Kindle now.
So okay. Oh, cool.
It has not. I did not see that in the last book that we read.
Oh, okay.
Actually, a page number on the bottom of the Kindle, but this must be new and improved. So
okay, cool.
So there we go. So we're on a dream called The Recorder. Would you like to read?
Oh, sure. So it starts out with Ken's narrative. for the recorder. He says, in 1945, Helen had a dream that on the level of form, we could never fully understand, but on another level reflects what I feel to have been the center of Helen's life. And that's probably why he concluded this chapter with this dream that he is going to devote about 5 pages to. So anyway, he says, it particularly addresses the meaning of Helen's being in the world and foreshadows in time the decisive instant when Helen did, in fact, make the right choice. It was the dreams looking forward to Helen's future decision to join with Bill that led me to place it out of chronological sequence. And at the end of this chapter, here's the dream. And I'll just read about a page or so since it's a long one. And this is Helen's account. I am standing in a small rectangular room lined with books from floor to ceiling. There are no windows. A single door open behind me leads to a short, dark corridor opening into the gloomy interior of a large and undistinguishable building. In the middle of the room, a tall and incredibly ancient man, evidently some sort of clerk, sits on a very high stool, his skinny shoulders hunched over a small flat-top desk. His feet are twisted around a rung just below the seat of the stool, and his bony knees are drawn up almost to his chin. He is carefully making small, neat entries with a long-handled quill pen and a large gray-bound ledger. His weak eyes, protected by a green eye shade, squint nearsightedly at his meticulous figures through thick lens spectacles. I edge cautiously into the room, clear my throat unsuccessfully several times, and finally find my voice. Forgive me for disturbing you, sir, I begin, very respectfully. I know you are very busy, but I have a very difficult problem on my mind, and I've been hoping you would help me. I understand that everything that is or has ever been in the whole universe is recorded here, so I felt that this would be the logical place to come. Akashic Records, anyone? Sounds like it. The clerk is mildly, that was my addition, by the way.
That's what I was thinking too.
In case you couldn't tell.
Akashic Records, that's what I was thinking too.
The clerk is mildly annoyed at the intrusion. He continues writing and answers absently. It is certainly true that I am very busy. However, if you will ask me your question, I will try to answer it. But that's just the trouble, I tell him sadly. If I only knew the question, I could possibly find the answer myself. But I haven't the faintest idea what the question is. In fact, that's really the problem. How about if I stop there? We can talk about that, because I think that's echoed in the course elsewhere, and Ken will probably express that sentiment at some point too, I suppose.
Yeah, and just as you were reading that, I was thinking, yeah, that is the question. That is the problem. Mm-hmm. I don't know the question.
Yeah. I was just going to look up real quick in the online edition of the course. I think there's a phrase somewhere. I don't know what the question is, something like that. But it seems like there's something, a phrase in the course very similar to that.
It says you've forgotten what to ask.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and
that's the phrase. Yeah.
Find that.
Yep.
So, but that is the problem. Is that we say, what am I? What is God? What am I looking for? What is heaven? What is salvation? What is forgiveness? We're asking all these questions, and really God is in the question. That's it's God that is in our mind, that is keeping us searching and trying to remember. So what is it that we're asking for? What are we looking for? And you could say a lot of words, but I think honestly, if you ever really knew what the question was, really knew what it was you were looking for, you would find it. It would be right there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I did find one quote really quickly here that I'll put in the chat that I think fits here. This is from toward the end of chapter 31, section 5, paragraph 17. There is no statement that the world is more afraid to hear than this. I do not know the thing I am, and therefore I do not know what I am doing, where I am, or how to look upon the world or on myself. Yet in this learning is salvation born. And what you are, with a capital W, will tell you of itself. And of course, the what we are is a mind, and in truth, it's the same mind that we all share, which is the right mind that it leads us to the Christ mind, in which there's not even a semblance of division or separation. And but that's the last place we look. It's always like that old cliche. You always find something when you misplace something in the last place you look, right? Unless you keep looking, but some people
and that's why you find, I mean, that of course it's the last place you look. When you find it, you don't look anymore. There's no
usually.
Sometimes I forget that I found the thing I was looking for, and I'll be like, where is that thing? Oh yeah, no.
Where's that dang deal?
What do I do with that? But yeah, this is fundamental. I mean, if you look at any like the non-dual teachings, the Ramana Maharshi or Nisargadatta or Rupert Spira or any of those people that are doing that, that's the question they're asking. What am I? Ask 1,000 times a day, who walks with me? That's a good question Jesus gives us. And that would give the answer too. What am I? I am God's son, which is coming up pretty soon. That and he gives us a great answer to it. But right now, we don't know. We can ask the question, "What am I?" But we already have an idea. We know the answer, so we're not going to listen to it.
And thinking that we're a who presupposes and constrains the answer to an illusory response. I was just thinking of the lyrics to Roger Hodgson's song, a logical song, Roger of Supertramp fame. And he used to sing that song when I lived in Nevada City, California, because he lived there as well, and out in the end of Cement Hill Road. I got to take a peek at his recording studio, and it was being built because a friend of mine was helping work on it. But that logical song, I think, please tell me who I am. Well, it's close, but unless we go to what we are, we're going to keep thinking that we're a specific thing, and that specific is never going to be satisfactory because a specific isn't complete.
Yes, yeah, exactly. In fact, it's specific singles out one thing and leaves out everything.
Yeah. The tyranny of specificity, if you will, or the tyranny of individuality. Even though we don't think of it as a mean-spirited, cruel tyrant of a thought system, that's what the ego is. It's merciless, and it's condemnation of the what, because it doesn't even know what the what is. The only thing it has to work with is a who, and as long as there's a separate who that's separate from other who's, in the little Whoville dream, Dr. Seuss dream of a world that we made up, we're not going to be happy, right?
That's right, and we're not happy. That's that no matter how we think, we're coming up with an answer, or my meditation today was really good, or all the warm fuzzy feelings that we get, all that, we're still not happy because why because we have not figured out the question that would give us the immediate answer of the truth of what we are, and lead us to remembering God, remembering who we are, which, I mean, today's lesson is so beautiful, and it's all about, I want to remember you. Joni was playing that Sarah McLachlan song this morning in our group, and it made me cry. I just, it just was like, I will remember you, and when you remember me, don't let your life pass you by. Hold not to your memories. it's like let go of those memories, and that's all
Mhm.
we're holding on to. Really, this world was over long ago. It is a memory.
Yep.
So, what is it that we're remembering now that's preventing us from remembering the truth? And it's all the specifics. It's
It's
every
it's everything that we made up is preventing us from being what we eternally are, or being aware of what we eternally are. We are already that.
yeah,
It's just we don't remember it because we don't want to remember it just yet.
right, exactly. And why not? Because we're holding on to those memories. We're thinking that the things that we have in this world are so important, and so we love them so much that
Mhm.
we don't want to let them go. And of course, Jesus tells us, You will not lose anything. All you keep all the love. The only thing that will be gone is the sorrow, the upset, the fear, the memory of pain. That will be gone completely, and you will have nothing but love left.
Mhm.
And it's because we never heard that story. I never heard that before. I never heard that, if you give up, the world, that you'll still get to keep all the best parts of it. I just thought you just have to give it all up. And Jesus is real specific. No, what you give up is the pain, and what you keep is the joy.
Mhm.
So that's what remember who you are, and you will remember all these things. But as long as you're not remembering it, then the pain overshadows everything. The sorrow overshadows everything. And the
Yeah.
joy is just some tiny little thing that we can grab a hold of every so once in a while. It may show up, for a few seconds, and we may feel it, but then it's gone because we're overshadowing it with all the crap. Because yeah, what do I want to remember the things, and I think they can't I can't remember the love unless I remember the pain. That's not true.
Yeah. Well, we have to be willing to look at the thought system of pain and see that it has no true value, and that it's worthless, and come to that conclusion on our own. But we have Holy Spirit's help to look at it and to see through those eyes, metaphoric eyes, that there's nothing there, and that it has never satisfied us. It has never um, achieved any true success, as far as bringing us even a real peace. It's brought euphoric moments, but that's about all it can claim. And then the euphoria really is always some kind of victory over, like, oh, I'm better than, or I'm having a better time than before, or than I'm likely to have again, or it's always some kind of relative, comparative, dualistic dream that doesn't truly satisfy. It's always like a short-lived ceasefire of a victory, and heavy air quotes around victory, right?
Exactly. And I'm going to post something in the chat. Are you still seeing the Kindle?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I love this share thing, because I can look up things and still have uh still be able to um keep the room in here. That's very cool. This
Sure.
is something,
Oh,
and it really has this has something to do with what we're talking about,
uh-huh.
but not so much the book, but I'm putting it in the chat.
Okay.
Um, and it's something I read the other day that just really kind of blew me away, because it said something I had never heard before. So it's from text chapter 27, section 8, paragraph 9. Says, in gentle laughter does the Holy Spirit perceive the cause and looks not to effects. How else could he correct your error, who have overlooked the cause entirely? He bids you bring each terrible effect to him, that you may look together on its foolish cause and laugh with him a while. You judge effects, but he has judged their cause, and by his judgment their and by his judgment are effects removed. Perhaps you come in tears, but hear him say, "My brother, holy Son of God, behold your idle dream in which this could occur, and you will leave the holy instant with your laughter and your brothers joined with his."
Mhm.
I read that, and what I realized is that we so often bring our troubles to the Holy Spirit and then like drop them off like it's our dry cleaning or our here you go, I'll come back later.
That's good. I like that.
But what he's saying is stay with him and look at it until you can
Mhm.
laugh about it.
Yeah.
Stay with him and look at it until you can laugh about it. And
Mhm.
then when you can laugh about it, you can leave the holy instant and have resolved the problem. Uh,
Mhm.
um, that's why my stuff's not been getting healed, because I haven't been sitting around with the Holy Spirit looking at this stuff until I could laugh. I thought it was, oh, I can't laugh about this. This is some terrible stuff. No.
It's a silly, forgivable dream that the Holy Spirit wants us to look at, that we've made into a big deal, a big, serious freaking deal that is just so horrendous that we don't even want to go there, let alone just look at it dispassionately and calmly. But if we take Holy Spirit's metaphoric hand and let him walk us through the observation room where, where we're looking dispassionately at the silliness of our own fabrications, machinations of the ego mind, and just say, wow, the tiny mad idea was over long ago, but I keep dredging it out. I keep hitting that detonate button every second. In fact, maybe 10 to the 44th times per second. Right? Can't even imagine if the Planck time constant is what's going on there. I don't know. That's just my little pet theory. But it's almost like the universe is stroboscopically being recreated a gazillion times a second, and we keep doing it because we've convinced ourselves that we threw perfect oneness away. We threw God under the bus. We trashed pure non-duality somehow, and we can't get back, even though we don't even know what that is that we would get back to, because we don't know what question to ask. Like we were talking about earlier, and we think we messed things so badly that we're terribly confused on our own, and we need help every step of the way. And that's what the
Every step of
development of
the way.
trust is about. It's just question every value that we hold, and look together on the foolish cause and see, oh, there's the upset, and now with the Holy Spirit I can look at the setup of the upset. Just take that word apart and flip it around, cut it in two, flip it around. Now the upset that seemed so insoluble and then intractable, it's like, oh, now it's like, oh, I can deal with this. I just have to see the setup, and that's something I keep reprogramming by default. I set it and hit the checkbox for keep this the default program to be upset about everything. But that's the setup, that's the program, and that's what we need to look at and just say, wow, the secret of salvation is I'm doing this to myself once again.
Yeah, and that is actually the next paragraph. This is from the section called The Hero of the Dream. And the next paragraph right after this one I just read you is the one that says, the secret of salvation is but this, that you are doing this unto yourself.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a great section you pulled into the chat there. Can I read some of the ones I found that I think were pertinent to what we talked
Oh,
about so
sure,
far?
absolutely. Please.
Yeah, I mean we have, I think, enough time to finish this section. If we, because the dream is fairly short, but I thought some of the things we talked about I think are pertinent. So the first one is, there is no statement that the world is more afraid to hear than this: I do not know the thing I am, and therefore do not know what I am doing, where I am, or how to look upon the world or on myself. Yet in this learning is salvation born, and what you are will tell you of itself. And then another one that I think fits, a couple more that fit nicely to that, is, I said before that the Holy Spirit is the answer. He is the answer to everything because he knows what the answer to everything is. The ego does not know what a real question is, although it asks an endless number. Yet you can learn this as you learn to question the value of the ego and thus establish your ability to evaluate its questions. Its questions are always, what illusion might serve me best? Well, and what should I get identified with? None of them really, but we need to come to that conclusion on our own after trying, seemingly countless variations of the ego's maladaptive solution to the non-existent problem, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's so simple. It's
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
But but we keep doing it to ourselves
We
because
do. We do over and over
why?
again.
And I realize because why is because we are afraid to laugh at it. We think
Yeah.
that we have to take it so seriously. We think
Hmm.
that the world has got to be saved. That somehow there's climate change and war and starvation and suffering, and we look at all these things, and because we believe that they're real, then we think that it's up to us to do something about it, and that somehow or the other we're responsible. And the fact is, yes, we are responsible because we're choosing to see a world where that is the situation. But but if we went to the Holy Spirit with it and looked at it with the Holy Spirit until we could laugh about it, because we would begin to see just how silly it really is. And the silliness is not that the world is a terrible place. The silliness is that it's impossible.
Yeah. 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 It's not. But I think the impossibility um, becomes evident maybe in the later stages, or at least for me, it does. But when I can just question, say, well, um, first off, this assumption I'm making, these beliefs that I'm clinging to, don't make me happy. I think that's the right use of evaluation, if you will, is of recognizing when we're at peace and when we're not, and truly being honest with ourselves and saying, gee, when I entertain that ego thought system, it doesn't bring me peace. No matter how many different variations it presents for my consideration, none of them work. They're all abysmal failures at bringing me peace that I really want. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where everybody starts. I mean, that's where you have to start,
Yeah.
because you can't start with I want to change the world and make it a better place. You have to start with, what does this mean to me?
Yeah.
How is this about me?
Yeah. And then we begin to see over time, gradually, I think we learn to generalize and realize, oh, if those aren't working and I made them up, then what if that whole thought system is illusory? But that's usually, the result of a lot of practice, at least for me anyway, a lot of practice of just noticing I'm not feeling peaceful. So I there must be another choice here that I haven't explored as an ego.
Exactly. It's that
Yeah.
chapter 5, decision for God. I must have decided wrongly because I'm not at peace.
Yep.
And I
And
can
then,
decide otherwise because I'm the one who made the decision.
yeah. And also in that chapter is another quote that I put in the chat that relates to what you were sharing a while back in our conversation this morning was about, we don't lose anything. All we lose is the idea of sacrifice. We have to, if you will, sacrifice the idea of sacrifice, but there's nothing if there is no world, and this is the central thought the Course attempts to teach. Again, that's something we arrive at after a lot of practice. But if we can even just begin to think that, well, what if some of this world is illusory, or doesn't? It's like optical illusions and things that don't add up, and just start to mentally question the very foundations of the so-called material reality, and realize, well, what if I had a hand in this, and if I had some sort of control over the outcome, not of what happens or doesn't happen in the world, but whether or not I'm peaceful, then it's like, oh, well, now I'm playing a whole different, program. I'm running a whole different software operating system. So the line I used to very frequently and occasionally still read in our online study groups on Wednesday evenings is how can you who are so holy suffer? All your past except its beauty is gone, and nothing is left but a blessing. I have saved all your kindnesses and every loving thought you ever had. I have purified them of their errors that hid their light and kept them for you in their own perfect radiance. They are beyond destruction and beyond guilt. They came from the Holy Spirit within you, and we know what God creates is eternal. That's one of my favorite sections in the course, and that's part of that paragraph. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And it's so, how can you who are so holy suffer? Wow.
What a
You
great
know,
rhetorical question. It really is kind of equivalent to asking, what do you think you are really? or,
yes,
or is it a who, At some point we'll give up on the who and go with the what being the mind that is the decision maker that can choose against the insanity of the dualistic thought system.
exactly. And it's just how simple, and yet, we run away from it. It's
Yeah.
just, wow, it's such a gift. We're so lucky. All right, so let's continue reading.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so do you want me to? I'll read on.
Sure.
Okay, so we had just read about Helen. She was having a dream that she was in this big hall with lots and lots of books, and there's
Like a
this
giant library. Yeah.
like a giant library, and there's this, I just imagine him like a Ebenezer Scrooge, or
I kind of had the same picture too. There's also an MC Escher I think it's a self-portrait of him, meticulously looking at some little detail, leaning over a desk and with like a little visor. I kind of have that picture in my mind too. But yeah.
Oh, funny, yeah. So there's a guy in here, and he's just writing things in his ledger, and uh, she comes up to him and finally gets his attention, and she tells him, I'm sorry, I know you're really busy, but I have a question, and he says, well, I am real busy, but I'll answer it if you want. And so she says, but that's just the trouble, I tell him sadly. If I only knew the question, I could probably find the answer myself, but I haven't the faintest idea what the question is. In fact, that's really the problem. I'm afraid I can't help you then, says the clerk. Most people who come here know what they want to ask. Your problem sounds impossible and even a little senseless to me. I wouldn't know how or where to look it up. It isn't easy, I know, I say apologetically, but I thought maybe we might first try under K for knowledge. If you will be kind enough to show me where you keep the K book, I'll try to find the question for myself. And then this is Ken's bracket. This is perhaps a foreshadowing of the course's use of, quote, knowledge, unquote, as a synonym for heaven. And yeah, I think that's probably true. Okay, so continuing with the dream. Knowledge isn't to be found in a book, says the clerk. A trifle pedantically, he reaches a gnarled yellow hand down to the floor, fumbles about beside his stool, and finally comes up with a gray cardboard cylinder about 1.5 feet long and some 3 inches wide. Its ends are sealed off with cardboard discs. He opens one end of the cylinder as he talks. And okay, here he says, I keep, quote, knowledge, unquote, in this, he explains. It contains of an infinite number of sheepskin diplomas, rolled one inside the other. I suspect that what you want is somewhere in the middle of this thing, but you would have to peel off the diplomas one by one in order to reach it. Since the number of diplomas is infinite, it is obvious that you would never get to the center. Therefore, you might as well not bother to begin. A picture of a heavy spindle-shaped object about 3 inches long and 1/2 inch wide, something like a lead fishing sinker, crosses my mind as he speaks. Oh, yes, that's where it is, I cry, very much excited. But there isn't any need to be sidetracked by the diplomas. All we have to do is shake the container, and whatever is at the middle of it will fall out easily. The clerk is displeased at this. He withdraws the cylinder a safe distance from my eager hand and says reprovingly, I cannot permit such unorthodox methods of research. No, I'm very sorry, but knowledge will not help you. He returns the cylinder to the floor and turns away from me in disapproval. I am disappointed and a little chastened, but after a short pause, I decide to try again. Oh, she's so tenacious. Perhaps we might try under I for information, I suggest hopefully. Information merely gives telephone numbers, says the clerk. That couldn't possibly help you. Even in her dreams, this is my aside, she's so clever. Even in her dreams, she's so clever. Information merely gives telephone numbers, says the clerk. That couldn't possibly help you. Or maybe P for prurience, and Ken's brackets, lasciviousness or lewdness, unbracket. I ask, desperate but still persistent. May I remind you, young lady, that research is properly conducted only with an open and unprejudiced mind, says the clerk severely. Such a word is indicative of a very strong emotional bias. It has no place in your search. Wow, I'm very sorry, I say contritely, backing away a little. I just thought maybe. I break off and then say this time, rather wildly, what would you think of S for Salome? This time the clerk is really angry. Now you're being just plain silly, he says sharply. I have no time for nonsense, and I suggest that you run along. All right. Do you have anything to comment on any of this that I've read so far?
Oh, I think it's fun. It's like, well, okay, if you're not going to be straight with me, I'll try something silly and absurd and see if I can get some kind of response, sort of thing. So anyway.
I'm going to shake you up here.
Yeah.
But
her intuition about just letting it fall through from the center, not having to go through all the the infinite number of diplomas. Actually, the lambskin was kind of interesting because I went through the Masonic Lodge and the aprons that you wear in the rituals are lambskin aprons, and so maybe there was the connection there. I don't know, but the lamb being a traditional religious symbol for innocence, maybe it's symbolic of we have to have a completely innocent mind. If it's an infinite number of lambskin diplomas, that could actually be a pretty easy symbolism for unquestioned or unconditional innocence.
Yeah, that is very true. And I was thinking, how an infinite number in that size of a cylinder, they me, I have to be thinking about it, and how could that be? But it's a dream, of course. And also the idea of diplomas. And when I read diplomas, I thought about the Wizard of Oz, because that's what he gave to the scarecrow was a diploma, and so he then had a brain. He was then able to think. Right. So there's so much symbolism, but I really am interested. This reference to Salome, because do you know who that is?
I just looked it up. I thought I'm going to confirm my recollection.
I'm posting it in here because she is
daughter of Herod II. Yeah.
Yes, and she is the one who, when she danced for her father or her stepfather, and he loved it so much that he said, I will give you anything you want. And she said, bring me the head of John the Baptist on a platter. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's, I don't know if that's exactly, but
I think that's what I'm seeing online suggests. Yeah. So, that's kind of what I recall too from years ago.
So she's the reason that John the Baptist was executed, and because her mother was was mad at him. But I just think that it's so funny that Helen would say that. What would you think of S for Salome?
Well,
What would
oh, go ahead.
go on?
Oh, I was just thinking about years ago when I was in a program called Creative Dynamics. We studied the Bible from a metaphysical perspective, and the idea that was presented by the fellow named Floyd Edwards, who was teaching the program at the time, was that Jesus was a symbol of our spiritual nature, but John the Baptist was like a symbol for our intellectual our intellectual understanding of our spirituality. And which I always kind of resonate with that. I'm sure that there's not a perfect metaphor, but I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. So, in other words, we need to prove more than we just need to prove to ourselves more than just an intellectual exercise that what the course is telling us is true. And so, in that sense, we have to. It's sort of like the praying mantis, the female that bites off the head of the, demonstrate to me that your devotion is real rather than just intellectual or mere words, whatever. So that's kind of what I get from it, is like, well, maybe we need to go beyond the intellect, and it's pretty evident that we do if we want to find the real peace. We can't just understand the theory. We actually have to forgive everyone and everything in our world, don't we?
That's right. That's right. And that's why until we can, that's why that whole thing of, you take it to the Holy Spirit and you hold it and you look at it with the Holy Spirit until you can laugh at it. It applies to everything. Because that whole praying mantis thing scenario that you just presented. I mean, it seems like really tragic for the male and all that, but actually it really is kind of symbolic.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, on a literal level, it's horrific, but on a metaphoric level, it's like, we need to go beyond an intellectual understanding, and that's what takes the practice. That's the lab assignment. The theory's great and it's required, but we have to go past that.
That's right. And to see the truth about it, because
Yeah.
the truth is in everything. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. And the miracle is behind everything that we see because that's where the Holy Spirit placed it. It's like that. And so that's, really rather than, think and worry about the world and despair about what we see, if we just went for the miracle every time and just, stuck with the plan, it would no longer be. That's what, people don't get that what the metaphysics of the course is saying is that when we have done this, the universe will disappear. There will be nothing there to see because what we're seeing now is an illusion and we will no longer be seeing an illusion.
Right.
So anyway, gosh.
Yeah, and I think the soothing, comforting, and meeting us where we're at commentary in the course that Ken Wapnick expressed, and I know Tim Wise has echoed this frequently, is that we don't need to worry about going poof. All of a sudden, it's like it's a slow process, and we will go peace long before we go poof, as well as the entire material universe. We will have a healed world in our mind, which is where it's always been in the first place, and always will be. And then if the world that we are no longer projecting guilt onto is a wholly neutral thing, then what is there? Saved of all our errors, like that quote I put in the chat from chapter 5 is, if I'm healing my own errors with Holy Spirit's help, by looking at the absurdity of a thought system based on specifics and individuality, then when I heal my mind, all that's left is the love that was there all along, and my engagement with it.
That's right. Yeah. That's it. So, wow.
so just the illusion drops away, but the reality was always there.
Right.
So I think it's because we're so far down the rabbit hole, and we just only have most momentary shadows of glimpses of reality is the best metaphor I can come up with at the moment. But so it seems terrifying to the ego, and yet it's truly the most comforting thing we could possibly imagine. You know, in the various places in the course it says, if you only knew, you know, how tremendously wonderful, beautiful, peaceful, joyous, loving a reality is, you know, we wouldn't hesitate a moment. But we need to ease into that because we think we're losing something of value by giving up our projections.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And yeah, and all we're giving up is the pain.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
and we value the pain. So
Yep.
that, I mean,
Yep.
that's, you know, we think the pain makes us who we are. And man, oh man, you know, I mean, I hear it in my story all the time. And every time I talk about, you know, the bad things that have happened or the things that are not comfortable, I think I'm, you know, expressing an identity that's real and valuable. But really all I'm doing is just repeating the lie.
Yeah. Yeah. The question with no answer, right?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Should I pick up where we left
yeah,
off?
please, yeah, pick up.
Okay, I'm going to back up just a sentence or two. Um, and then I'm just going to start at the top of page 80. Such a word is indicative of very strong emotional bias. It has no place in your search. And that was the word prurience, i.e. lasciviousness or lewdness. So anyway, so she's just basically being silly to kind of push it, see if she could push his buttons, this gentleman in her dream. Um, so she says, in the dream, she says, I'm very sorry, I say contritely, backing away a little. I just thought maybe, I break off and then say, this time rather wildly, what would you think of S for Salome? This time the clerk is really angry. Now you're just being plain silly, he says sharply. I have no time for nonsense and I suggest that you run along. The clerk's anger frightens me and I try to soothe him back to a reasonable degree of friendliness. Please don't be angry with me, I beg him. I didn't really mean to say it. It just sort of slipped out. Tell you what, I'll forget about the whole thing if you'd prefer it. Perhaps that would be best after all. It would certainly be wiser, says the clerk dryly. Then, seeing that I'm still, this almost kind of reads like an Alice in Wonderland saga, doesn't it? I kind of have that
Yeah, me
detect that
too.
quality, you know, in her writing. Yeah. It would certainly be wiser, says the clerk dryly. Then, seeing that I'm still unwilling to leave, he adds firmly, well then, goodbye. I turn obediently toward the door. The clerk's annoyance and his abrupt dismissal of me have made me acutely uncomfortable. Besides, the whole interview has been dreadfully disappointing. The clerk has been of no assistance, and he has made it quite clear that my problem, never of much interest to him, is now of no concern whatever. There is no real reason to suspect that he could help me, even if he wanted to. And yet the feeling persists that he could somehow help enormously if only he cared to. I am afraid of angering him further by not accepting my dismissal, but I'm also unwilling to let the matter drop on so unsatisfactory a note. I hang about in the doorway uncertainly for a while, shifting miserably from one foot to the other. Then I tiptoe very softly back into the room. At first, the clerk pretends not to notice me. At last, he shrugs his shoulders in resignation and says with forced patience, still here, eh? I'm afraid so, I say in a very small voice. I know I'm being a terrible nuisance, but I was wondering if you would tell me what you're doing. That is, if you don't mind very much, I add quickly. I'm making accounts, says the clerk briefly. Whose accounts? I asked eagerly, pleased that he has answered me at all. Everybody's, answers the clerk. I don't understand that, I say. Could you very kindly explain it to me? Do you want to read the next page?
Sure. And this really is Akashic record thinking here. It's pretty cool. And I don't know if she knew about this before, because I'm not sure. I don't think she was involved with reading Edgar Casey or anything before she got involved with the course. Or also, what I noticed here is that any one of these words in the let me see, in the Kindle, if I double click on it, it will tell me the meaning of it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's cool, isn't it? Yeah.
that is pretty cool. So
Mhm.
okay. All right. So so everybody's answers the clerk. I don't understand that. I say, could you very kindly explain it to me? I think, it's funny because it seems like she's asking him to do it kindly. But really she's just being polite. The clerk sighs. I suppose I'll have no peace until I do, he says wearily. Very well then. In this ledger is a page of accounts for everybody that lives, and all his actions are recorded on it. Whenever someone dies, I draw a line under the last entry, add up the figures, and get a total. This total I pass on to the proper authorities. And she's put a capital on authorities. I see, I say, much interested. You mean you decide whether people have been good or bad and things like that? Dear me, no, answers the clerk. I merely record facts. Good and bad mean nothing to me. They may concern the authorities, of course. I wouldn't know. It's not my department. I was just thinking, I say, speaking very casually. I mean, well, how would you say my page looks? I wouldn't know yet, answers the clerk without much interest. Your account hasn't been closed as yet. I know, but there must be some figures on it already. I was sort of wondering what you think about it so far. Do you think it will shape up all right? I ask anxiously. I never indulge in speculation, replies the clerk. In my work, it would be a waste of time. Over and over, I've seen a person suddenly decide to do something very unexpected. Something that, excuse me. Oh my goodness.
That was unexpected, right?
Yeah, I've breathed in some dust. Hang on.
Sure.
Yeah, I inhaled something like a little speck of dust or something. Okay, so
could have been an entire world of Whoville that just went in and out of your lungs in the last few seconds.
All the Who's flying around. It's a hurricane.
Really,
you are such a joy to be with. I just adore you. I don't know if I've ever told you that. Anyway,
well, that's mutual.
I never indulge in speculation, replies the clerk. In my work, it would be a waste of time. Over and over, I've seen a person suddenly decide to do something very unexpected, something that changes the whole picture of his accounts. He is quite likely to do it up until the very last minute. Therefore, I've given up speculating beforehand, and afterwards, of course, guessing is no longer necessary. I'll tell you one thing, though, he says, wheeling suddenly around toward me and speaking with unaccustomed emphasis. Your final account will be determined very largely on what you decide to do with that shoehorn. Shoehorn, I gasped. What shoehorn? I don't know what on earth you're talking about.
But this sounds more and more like Alice in Wonderland all the time. Just like, what a fun dream,
I know. The clerk looks straight at me. I think you do, he says very quietly. Oh, yes, I think you do. However, he goes on, his voice returning to its former matter-of-factness, to me, it won't matter either way. It seemed charitable to mention it, since I have an idea you don't realize its importance. As for me, I will duly record your decision when you make it, and there my concern with the matter will end. And now, if you will excuse me, I'll be getting on with my bookkeeping after this long and rather futile interruption. Goodbye again. This time, I also say goodbye.
And I'm amused at thinking about, well, what's the shoehorn symbolize? And what it comes to mind for me is well, shoes are what you put your feet in, and your feet, I always kind of do a little wordplay and think, well, that's your understanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was thinking about Dorothy's ruby slippers in The Wizard of Oz. You tap your shoes together, right, to go home. Well, you consolidate your understanding, and then you're home. And I think that's what the course is asking us to do, is to consolidate our understanding. So getting our feet into those shoes, into that understanding, is what the course is about, I suppose. That's a little bit of a stretch there, maybe, symbolically, but
yeah. But if
how's that for a first pass?
Use shoehorn, you won't have to stretch.
Yeah, there you go.
Just
Without
slip it in.
just slip it in,
Oh,
right? Rather than fight it. Yeah.
how funny this is. I mean, this is just hilarious. And yeah, it is like a scene. We only have a few more minutes. I think we can maybe read a couple of another paragraph or so.
Oh, that's all there's left of the chapter, so we can
That's
finish
so
these. Yeah, yeah,
we'll just finish it up.
yeah.
But
And it ends with Ken's commentary. So
okay.
yeah.
So I'll just finish. This is we could talk about this for days.
Oh, we could. We could. That's a great dream, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah.
So that it ends with a shoehorn is just, I mean, I have to laugh about that now. Okay. Okay, so Ken says, recall that the dream occurred in 1945, about 13 years before Helen met Bill, and 20 years before Bill's "There Must Be Another Way" speech, which, as we shall see later, was the external stimulus for the scribing of A Course in Miracles. While Helen, Bill, and I were never able to decipher the shoehorn symbolism, it seemed as if it must somehow refer to Helen's decision to join with Bill, as well as on another level, her decision not to misuse her scribal ability that would be expressed in the God is vision described below in chapter 5. And Ken says, I personally tried to no avail to make connections between the shoehorn and the scroll in this vision, exploring all kinds of Hebrew associations and others as well. However, Helen's final account did seem settled at last, for her decisions regarding Bill and A Course in Miracles did, in the end, reconcile her account with Jesus, who could then gently bring her home. And is that,
Wow.
yep, okay, that's it. So, wow, yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that great? Yeah. Yeah. What a great way to end that chapter with an amazing dream, huh? I was thinking, even though Ken didn't seem to make the connection, I was thinking, well, further on in this book, and I know it comes up in a lot of his lectures, but I'm pretty sure, as I recall, in the book we're reading now, Absence from Felicity, he goes into Helen's hire shopping service, where she basically employs the Jesus in her mind to help her find the right place to buy shoes and pantyhose and things like that. And I was thinking, well, maybe that's part of the shoe symbolism for her. Maybe it really meant something for Helen, and kind of like the stuff that was edited out of the final version of the course. Maybe it was, the symbolism was just too specific or something, but maybe it meant something for her. And anyway, who knows?
Yeah, I
It
mean,
doesn't matter, right?
really, I mean, honestly, because think about it, this is not, a dream is not something that comes to you from someplace else. It's not like,
Mhm.
that there's a message coming to you from another planet, or, another being, or, God or the Holy Spirit. The dream actually is your own mind. You're all the characters, and you're doing all the things in the dream in your mind. And so uh it's just Helen's inner knowing, as always, as is yours and mine, that the truth, and just being able to connect with it and express it. And sometimes a dream, you can connect and express things in a dream that you can't connect and express things in in quote the real world.
Mhm.
So she may have been, it may have been like Rosebud, it may have been the last thing on her lips, shoehorn. I don't
Right. Right.
Oh my gosh.
I do like the idea of, it basically helps us get comfortable, you know, with that attire, rather than having to force things. I mean, I think maybe it kind of ties into that one wonderful forward sentence in the beginning of chapter 30, do not fight yourself. It's like the struggle is really an indication of where we're still using the wrong thought system, the thought system of trying to make the square peg fit in the round hole. And which is really the ego really doesn't fit in our mind comfortably. That's why, if we look at it honestly, it's like, well, there's never, it's always a seek but do not find compromise, and the Holy Spirit always undoes that.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So, wow, Bruce, always such a pleasure to join you.
Likewise
here.
so much. Yeah, great.
And,
And what a great note to end on for this morning, and leading up to chapter 4, which is leading to A Course in Miracles
yep.
from 1950 to 1964. So we got a 14-year span in the next chapter to go over. So that'll
All
be
right.
fun.
Well,
Yeah.
I will see you next week. Have a good time getting
Likewise.
acclimated to your new home.
Oh, we're feeling pretty moved in. We got
Yep.
stuff on the walls and little new decor from the environs here, and all kinds of stuff. So anyway,
That's cool. Yeah,
yeah.
we had a little scorpion in the house the other night. Our cats were having a good time. And I thought about you, and I thought, well, wait till you start getting scorpions walking around in the living room.
Well, actually, we've already had a couple, and we already had a pest control company out and spray yesterday. So hopefully that'll slow them down a little, maybe. But anyway,
Yeah.
uh,
And we
yeah,
got the scorpions and the tarantulas and
yeah, all that good stuff. Yeah,
all that good stuff. And
yeah.
yeah.
But
All right,
it's
well,
fun to live in a new place. So anyway, thank you so
absolutely.
much, Lynn. As always, have a great week, and